Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with another hot take. I think this is going to be my last video tonight. I was going to do four, but it's getting late and I should get extra sleep. Um, for some reason, I drilled down into this NPR, National Public Radio. If you don't know what it is typically known as Smart People Radio, right? This is the radio station that all your liberal intellectual friends listen to, college professors listen to, everybody who's considered smart listens to NPR because it's oh so wonderful. But just like everything else on the left, and it's very, very left leaning, it went woke and it's fallen apart, in my view. Um, it was formed back in the 70s. Currently, it is still taxpayer supported, but not fully. It is only supported by about, I guess we support maybe 25% of it. It has a budget of an endowment of $258 million, and $208 million comes from the United States, or comes from its revenue, and the rest, about 50 million, comes from us, and we're paying for this. But it's extremely one-sided in my view in terms of politics, and it's now suffering from what all the left-leaning media outlets are suffering from. It's just too woke and too one-sided. It's lost its damn mind. It's just lost its damn mind. How, you might say? Well, NPR lists Cardi B's Wet AP, I think you know what it stands for, as the best song of 2020. You have to understand that NPR was the station that played classical music and played radio plays, old-time radio plays, classics. It was supposed to be, for radio that commercially wasn't really viable for anymore, but it was important. It was important artistically to keep certain things alive. Folk music, a folk music hour, and jazz hour, and things like that. That's what it's supposed to be for. And now they're listing Cardi B's song as the best song of 2020. I mean, it's sad. It's really sad and pathetic. Why are they doing this? Well, probably because they've gone so far woke, they think they're doing everybody a favor by doing this. Like, they're you want to talk about something that there's nothing more white bread than NPR. It's just extremely dry and boring, in my view. Terry Gross, Fresh Air, is one of the shows, and look, she'd have some cool people on, and for many years it was important. It was especially important back in the 70s when conservatives still kind of dominated the landscape to a certain point, and they dominated the media landscape to a small degree, at least enough that they owned everything, and if it didn't make money, it was out. So that's another thing NPR was. It was a place for all these disparate kind of things and music to go to that regular stations probably wouldn't play them anymore, and to keep them around. But now that they're listing Cardi B, that they would even talk about Cardi B on the station is just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're supposed to be for intellectuals. This is intellectual? You're talking about this song as intellectual? In my view, there's nothing intellectual about this song. Nothing. And I like the song, which tells you something right there. It's got a good beat to it. It's got a good hook. I like it. I like Cardi B. I like her video on the subject, but I wouldn't put it on NPR. I wouldn't call it the best song of 2020. I would just call it, to me, it's a song, 5 years from now, nobody will remember. It's really the kind of song that used to be protested by people. And here's NPR trying to push it like, oh, aren't we wonderful? This is another thing they did. This was back in August. Declaring Portland riots to be riots may be racist because Oregon's laws are rooted in the state's racist history, NPR says. This is them driving it off the cliff, finally. Okay, if you want to say that, but really, you're a taxpayer subsidized radio station. These people in Portland were attacking the government directly. There's a conflict there, okay? If you want to support people attacking the government, then you shouldn't get a dime of taxpayer money. You should just no way. NPR should be defunded. Defund it all. Let rich liberals support it. They love it. It's mostly supported by rich liberals anyway. And they'll survive. They'll survive it. But this wasn't what NPR was for. It's not to, side with people against their own government. If you want to do that as a private individual, up to a point, you can. At a certain point, I think it becomes, counterproductive. But if you want to drag down the United States, I guess that's what you want to do. But I don't think you should get taxpayer money to destroy your own country. Here's the New York Post from October. Former NPR CEO opens up about liberal media bias. Most reporters and editors are liberal. A now dated Pew Research Center poll found that liberals outnumber conservatives in the media by some 5-1, and that comports with my own anecdotal experience at the National Public Radio. When you are liberal, everyone else around you is as well. It is easy to fall into groupthink on what stories are important, what sources are legitimate, and what the narrative of the day will be. This may seem like an unusual admission from someone who once ran NPR, but it's born out of recent experience. Spurred by fear that red and blue America are drifting irrevocably apart, I decided to venture out from my overwhelmingly Democratic neighborhood and engage Republicans where they live, work, and pray. For an entire year, I embedded myself with the other side, standing in pit row at a NASCAR race, hanging out at a Tea Party meetings, and sitting on Steve Bannon's radio show. I found an America far different from the one that depicted in the press and imagined by presidents, quote, cling to guns or religion, and presidential candidates, quote, basket of deplorables, alike. I spent many Sundays in evangelical churches and hung out with 15,000 evangelical youth at the Urbana conference. I wasn't sure what to expect among thousands of college-age evangelicals, but I certainly didn't expect the intense discussion of racial equity and refugee issues, how to help them, not how to keep them out. But that is what I got. And it goes on and on. And here he talks about the drifting apart from Republican and Democrat. Now, Tim Pool has talked about this, that mostly for the last, back in the 90s up until the mid-2000s, Democrats and Republicans were relatively close to each other, and there was a lot of overlap. Now, the median Democrat is so far left. Now here, the Republicans drifted a little further right, but not much, according to what Tim Pool says. In this chart, it seems about even, or it seems like the median Republican is way out there, but, it's really more left than it is right, in my view, but the mainstream media, according to the article, is constantly under attack by the president. They are frankly disgusting, tremendously dishonest, failing. They make up stories and are now threatened with the loss of broadcast licenses if they continue to author fake news, and that's just a random Wednesday's worth of words from Donald Trump. And it's true. The media has just become unbelievably biased towards Trump, and here's one of the reasons. NPR says they won't cover the Hunter Biden story because Russia, and it doesn't amount to much. It's an outrage. They wouldn't cover that story, and that shows you the incredible bias that they have. The Hunter Biden story. Here's Hunter Biden. He is apparently a drug addict. He is having sex with prostitutes. He is acting apparently inappropriately with a minor, being naked in front of them. There's a lot going on with this guy, on top of the fact that there is proof. I mean, it's not a rumor. There is proof. Giuliani has the laptop. The FBI has the laptop. The evidence is there. I've seen the evidence. Everybody's seen it who's bothered to look. He has taken money from Chinese businesses, Chinese operatives. And that's all communist propaganda, communist stuff. It's the communists. That NPR won't cover it at all? That they put out a statement like this? It's an outrage that they get one thin dime of taxpayer money. This is essentially a branch of the DNC now for the oh-so-smart intellectuals in the DNC. And they don't deserve funding. They don't deserve it. Here's another ridiculous article. This is on the NPR site back in August. One author's controversial view in defense of looting. This was a defense of looting. Now they put, in September, they kind of updated and kind of backed off the story a little bit because they got a ton of flack from it. But it still doesn't change the fact that these guys would put this on as if, oh yeah, this is a good idea. In defense of looting. Yeah. It's like reparations. Yeah. I mean, these people are in the bubble deep and they don't come out of it. Again, that wasn't what NPR was for. It was for, classic things. It wasn't to be a partisan actor in the election. And I'm sure if you talk to these people, they'd be like, well, it was just Donald Trump. Yeah, well, now you've gone there. You're never going to back off. You might as well not. You might as well stay at partisans because you've ruined your reputation as being nonpartisan. When you're a nonprofit organization, too, supposedly, you're not supposed to do that stuff. You might as well just be owned by the Democrats. Let them pay the $50 million to support the rest of you. And not surprised, this is from July. NPR says radio ratings have dived during the pandemic. Networks say beer virus has accelerated changes. Of course. Now, part of this is the fact nobody was commuting anymore. And radio is kind of going away anyway. It's all going on the internet. But, this is just more evidence that this is just an incredible waste of money. We're propping up people from a rival political party. Imagine if the Republicans had their own radio station and every day they, posted stuff about Trump and how great he was and posted stuff about keeping abortion, making abortion illegal and, religious stuff. You'd hear screams from the left side of the aisle. But they don't have a problem with this because it benefits them. They don't have this is the problem with left politics. They have no honor, really. I mean, they don't care about the rules as long as they win. This is a flagrant violation of the rules. NPR should not be doing this. NPR should not be engaged in politics. Teachers' unions should not be engaged in politics, and they are. It's the same sort of thing. It's like, well, that's against the rules. Well, nobody cares because that's on the left, and the moment you say anything, they scream, ah! So, I think we should defund NPR. They shouldn't get a dime. And clearly, these people say, well, it's only a little bit of money. Okay, Come up with the extra $50 million. I'm sure you can. It's the same thing with the Kennedy Center. I mean, Kennedy. That's on one side of the aisle. There's no Republican Kennedys that I know of. Let the Democrats support that. If you want it, if it's so important, fund it. Fund it. Fund it yourself. Why are you taking money out of my pocket for this stuff? I'm done with it. I won't support it. I'll support candidates who will defund this. And do I care about the arts? Of course I do. I'm in the arts. But I'm not benefiting one iota from this. The people at NPR would never interview me. They're not going to interview anybody on the wrong side of politics now. No way. They tune into my YouTube channel, they'll be like, "Ooh, no." The only time I would get, I think, on NPR would be if they called me one of these horrible racists for some reason. You know, if I was famous, then maybe. Cardi B. I just can't get over that. As soon as I saw that, I said, I gotta do it. I gotta do a thing on NPR. They've lost their way. This is NPR now. Blah. Dumb. Defund them immediately.